Your president is watching. America is watching. But more important, Godfather is watching. Make no mistake, there will be no fuck-ups. Marines around this world would give they left nuts to be where you are. Anybody not want to go? Marines, kill on 3. 1, 2, 3. Kill!
right, ladies and gentlemen, I can't help it. The visual I get every time I hear that song, I see Ken Crater out there in his tractor going up and down the roads, just blaring it, flag flying off the back, and then right at the end, right at that climax, he's got that Objective Gunner's protection kit cut through the hole of his tractor, and he jumps up in that turret. He's got an AK in one hand, an M4 in the other hand. He rips his shirt off, comes up through the coal, and just fires both weapons, fully automatic, into the air. God bless America. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to Cold War Radio Live from studio number 1, which means we're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Hutch Bailey Jr. The Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-206-6208. The voicemail for those of you listening to the podcast, 412-567-1460. Please go to steelcityresistance.com and become a Cold War Radio patron. You can also check out the research room with just a gaggle of information in there on all subjects. You can go to the video page, which will highlight the videos of the audio clips that we play here on the radio station. If you'd like to write to the program, please write to Cold War Radio, P.O. Box 104-33370, Castle Shannon Boulevard, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15234. All right, let's swing that turret around to the south and aim it at the northern neck of Virginia in Oyster Country. And let's welcome Jack to the program. Hello, Jack.
Hey, Hutch. I was wondering what that loud booming automatic weapons fire was when I was out there in the oyster boat the other day.
I'll tell you, I just that's what I think of when I hear that. I love it. I love it. He always provides a link to the artist in the VFW in our chat room. So thank you, Ken. I'm sure we'll talk to you a little bit later. Not yet, though. We got a lot to do first. I want to say hello to all of our wonderful patriots that are in the chat room right now. Thank you for coming out on a Friday night. I really appreciate that. I wanted to cover something real quick. I thought about it the other day, Jack, and you know, every single newscast that you see, these people that are reading the news, they're not that smart. I mean, think about it. You know, you've got every single anchor at the top of every news hour has to display what the president has tweeted. And I guess they don't realize that they've been rendered useless, because if there's a tweet from the president 10 times the size of all of their combined audiences have already seen the tweet, Jack.
I know.
They've already seen it.
That's the key. That's why you don't have any press conferences now, you know, since
so Brett
Sarah
Baer,
Huckabee.
John Roberts, Brett Baer. Nobody watches Jake Tapper, so don't worry about him or the rest of those guys. But stop showing us presidential tweets. You're completely and totally obsolete.
Did you see some of the impeachment thing? They were showing the president's tweets.
Oh yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
He's scaring people.
He's terrifying them. He is. That's a fact.
He's an terrifying orange man. Oh my goodness.
Orange man bad. Orange man bad. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hate doing this. I've told you that before, but I have to because it's the 24th of January. We've got a month and 2 days, and I haven't seen any movement for a while. We're trying to go to CPAC, and where we stand right now is I'm looking at to do the 100% good job at CPAC with 4 of us. It's going to take $7,000. All right, when you break that down per person, it's not that much. I know it's a lot, but I'm just telling you what it is. We've got $1,815 set aside for that trip right now, which means that we are $5,185 is our goal. So I'd love, if it's possible, that you can donate. You can go to steelcityresistance.com, donate buttons on the right. not to be confused with becoming a Cold War Radio patron, although that is also actually more important to become a Cold War Radio patron because that provides for the show throughout the year. Again, I don't like doing this, but if we're going to do it, I want to make sure that at least we know where we are in a couple weeks. Anyway, we're still waiting for our credentials. They've all been applied for, and that's a showstopper too. But I mean, I've got a couple angles if that doesn't go the way I think it will. But one of the things that's good is that they ask you for your previous body of work at CPAC, and although it wasn't under my own banner, I do have an extensive record for that, so that should breeze us right through. But at any rate, whatever you can do, I think about it as look at your cable bill and how much news do you get from your cable bill versus this show. And I mean, I'm not trying to brag or anything like that. I just want to get this. I don't want to have to be in a position on the 25th of February trying to figure out where to send all this money back. I really don't want to be in that, because if that happens, that'll be the last time I travel anywhere. And I'm not trying to get cocky. Please don't misunderstand me on that. It's just, man, I hope we don't have to do that. And I don't think we will. Like I said before, there's some things we could do, some buttons we could push if we need to. But I just want you to know that that's a top priority, and anything that you can do will really help. I'd also like to see, and nothing against our callers. I love you callers, you know I do, or I wouldn't answer the phone. But I would like to have some new callers. If you're listening to this show, you've been listening for a while, I'm not going to bite you. You call up the show, 412-206-6208, and we'll take care of you. Don't worry. We need to get some new voices. And again, nothing against the old voices. I love you guys too. But that's that. Jack, we got to get to CPAC. Now, let me just ask you how you're doing. How's it going? What's going on with you?
It's actually, I mean, I'm sure that I might not be alone for the last 4 days watching this impeachment deal. I've almost gotten to the point where I wanted to stab my own eyes out. I mean, Adam Schiff on the television screen I've got to see what he's saying just so, we get to do a show. I can comment on how they're doing. And he's got some kind of superpower with those bug out eyes and stuff.
Lord.
It's like,
he's the best thing that ever happened to Donald Trump. I mean,
he stares up at that camera. That he's like, he knows where that camera is up in the top of the ceiling in the Senate place, because he looks for you right in the eyes. Like,
I've been around the block a couple times. I'll tell you what, that guy looks like a meth head, either a meth head or a coke head. There's something. Something's driving him.
We know his buddy is the one that was arrested out there in Los Angeles, right?
Ed Buck. Yeah, no doubt. Let's go to the phones. And let's welcome William to the show. I think this is you, William.
Yes, it is.
Hello, William.
How's it going?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. What's on your mind?
Oh, okay. I have a whole new subject to bring up that I ran into this week, and I just wanted to make everybody aware because I have not seen it in the news anywhere. My little company I work for that I'm part owner of, we've been doing a contract with BART, which is Bay Area Rapid Transit, for probably 25 years. It's something that we designed, and they've been buying it. That BART, which is in California,
San Francisco,
decided, they decided that their procurement cannot buy from a company in a state that voted for Trump.
Oh, my God. Now, you talk about, this is when people do things like this, and really, the media's done the same thing, William. The media has gone against a solid business plan because of their Trump derangement syndrome. Hey, if San Francisco's so far over the edge, you'll pick up the business somewhere else, I hope.
Well, we will, but again, it's just that we've been we had the most competitive bid, the low price. They're willing to sacrifice that because of their political stance, and it just pissed me off.
I can imagine, man. Jack,
That's a local government run, BART, Bay Area Transit, sort of
Well,
like
it's a state run. It's like PAT. They get a lot of state money.
right. It's government run.
Oh,
Transit, not a
yeah,
private.
they're the ones that have the trolley cars, and the regular stuff. But they run all that.
Yeah, this is hardware. This is hardware that we make. The pulleys, the turnbuckles for them. There's all kind of little parts. So just miscellaneous replacement parts. And we've been doing this same work for 20 years. And because Pennsylvania voted for Trump, they're not allowed to purchase from Pennsylvania.
I'll tell you, I can just see the Democrats in Pennsylvania now calling that out. If you idiots wouldn't have voted for Trump, that this company would have been. Oh my goodness!
And that's the same state that has that high-speed rail thing, right? What they kind of backed off.
That was a disaster. That we were involved with that high-speed rail. That we designed the brakes for it. That's the maglev.
It was supposed to be L.A. to San Francisco via Bakersfield, wasn't it? Something high-speed route.
Yes, but that wasn't what the big deal was. The actual big deal was there's 3,800 trucks that go from their docks to warehouses in the city, and they wanted to put this maglev in to transport these trucks or these these are sea containers back and forth to the warehouses, and it probably would have saved. I mean, can you imagine 3,800 trucks coming off the roads and unplugging their highways? Well, it was shot down because of the Teamsters union.
It's the maglev technology, because I've always been a fan of that, because just like you said, as far as taking it from port to distribution center, put it on maglev, that's just basically a magnet, boom, you got product.
but
William, off the highway.
But William, come on now. Because you have experience in maglevs and sky buses and everything else that we tried to do here in the 70s.
We do. The original sky bus they had out at South Park.
Right.
That we when they retired that, took it out of South Park. We had it in our parking lot for a couple of years.
Yeah, then it went in the tunnel.
Trolley Museum. This is the one that was out at South Park on the stilts.
Right. Peter Flaherty, mayor.
We brought that in and ripped out all the electrics in it and put in lights for them, and it's sitting down at the Trolley Museum in the LPA. We got paid to do that.
I know it. I remember those days well. All right, William.
And here's another interesting fact with my little company. You know the new Duvog trucks or the streetcars they have running now?
Yeah, the PPC cars.
Okay. That I went over to Germany in Dusseldorf for 2 weeks to learn how to put their trucks together. And we built those all in Elwood City.
All right.
What's running in Pittsburgh right now.
That's outstanding. And ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about is what we call them here is streetcars. It's really a, let me think here.
It's light rail.
LRT, light rail transit.
Yeah, it's light rail.
It's an electric train that, basically the whole city, it was the major mode of transportation for the entire city. And William, I got to tell you, I remember when I was learning how to drive, all the streetcar tracks were still in the street. And I'm going to tell you what, that was a hard way to learn how to drive, with 1969 cars and train tracks in the middle of the street. But they ripped them all up, but they left them in one neighborhood. They left them in the South Hills, which I live in now. I don't use private or public transportation, but it's an excellent mode. I wish they would expand on it.
It is. I have no problem with it. But then I've been involved, and we're still in business. We used to be in Southside. We're in Elwood City. We got the hell out of Allegheny County because of the taxes.
Right. My family did the same thing. Moved to Cranberry. Yeah. But
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, that's my story. I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, how screwed up California is.
Great story, and please keep listening and enjoying the show. And thanks for calling, sir. And thanks for helping us out, by the way.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Right.
William.
William, Rochester, Pennsylvania, out and out, Beaver County area. Ladies and gentlemen, great caller. That's my one of the examples of a new caller. We got him about 6 months ago or something.
Yeah, and he's added every time he's called, he's added something good for the show, and we love that.
And he,
like that information. Here goes California again. It's based on feelings because Pennsylvania went Trump. They're going to just wipe out a company that has won and has done and kept doing good products for the contracts for whatever they needed. Isn't that the goal for the project, is to get the best price for the best quality
we kind of have the natural resources here to do it, especially machine shop type things like that. But you would have never heard that story. And again, if you did see that picked up in the media, it would be a negative story against Pennsylvania Trump supporters.
And the reason, it's because they're from Pennsylvania. It's like, are you serious?
Orange man bad. That's all there is to it. Now, I came across an interview, Jack, and it was 12 minutes long, so I had to break it down into several clips. And I'm going to throw these clips in and out here, but we're going to go. It's Rudy Giuliani was on whatever that show is that Fox has.
He's come back. What, the morning one, huh? Fox and Friends?
Yeah, that. And I want you to listen to this, especially if you're a co-host on Cold War Radio. Because these guys at Fox they're amateurs. If you get somebody, I'm telling you this, Jack, and anybody else that's listening that's a co-host, you get something like Rudy Giuliani on the show, and if he's still talking, shut the hell up. Don't say anything. Let Rudy go. And these Fox and Friends co-hosts are horrible, man. But anyway, the content is good. Let's listen to Rudy.
The President of the United States knows the Vice President's not going to be home. He's going to be meeting His Holiness, the Pope, today overseas. That's going to be a big deal. And the President's going to be giving some remarks at a pro-life rally.
I was sitting next to you.
I know. Oh, Rudy Giuliani's here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, you're bearing the lead.
Not the Pope. It's not the Pope.
Rudy, I know you've got some new evidence you're going to be presenting today.
Lot.
But first, were your ears burning yesterday?
They're
because
not
yesterday
clapping
the
at you,
Democrats
DC,
in their
DC.
House impeachment proceedings were talking a lot about you. They talked about Lev Parnas, who says the president and you knew everything that he was doing. They showed your phone records. They built a case that you were up to no good for the president.
How about all of those phone records show that I am a very hardworking lawyer who was investigating what really happened, because I didn't go look for dirt on Joe Biden. It was handed to me. And it was handed to me a year, almost a year and a half ago.
You didn't ask for it?
No, I was given information about Ukrainian corruption. It involved by two people, two informants. You're going to find out at least who one of them is, and possibly the second. And they told me that there was a great deal of collusion going on in Ukraine to fix the 2016 election
In the United States?
in favor of Hillary, that what happened in Russia was a big hoax, that actually it was the Democrats projecting what they had actually done in Ukraine. I don't know if it's true or not. They gave me witnesses, the two prosecutor generals, the current one and the last one. I've since interviewed 10 of them. I've got 8 of them on tape. I'm going to start a podcast at noon today. And starting next week, the people will hear these witnesses who our embassy will not give a visa to, because they're still covering up the corruption the embassy was involved in.
They don't want them to come
in
to the United
2016.
States?
The embassy was involved in gathering dirt on Trump Jr., and on Manafort.
Well, that
not
means
only
the
that,
State
they were involved in turning over falsified evidence, absolutely completely falsified. 4 witnesses will testify to that over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Mr. Mayor, let me ask you.
I'm going to present over the next 2 to 3 weeks shocking crimes at the highest levels of both governments, while the Senate is listening to a totally phony group of stories about non-impeachable offenses. It's like trying somebody for not a crime. It's a total waste of money. It's a complete show on the part of the Democrats.
Right.
And they should be sued for conspiracy to defraud the United States, and they should pay for that hearing.
But Mr. Mayor, do you...
The Democratic National Committee should pay for that television advertising. And you talk about interfering in the 2020 election. You know, I started investigating Biden 2 years ago when he was thinking about running for president. I never thought he would run. Looked to me like he couldn't cross the street, much less run. I wasn't investigating Biden. In the middle of the corruption presentation, one gentleman said to me, well, you know about the Biden bribe. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, Biden got paid off. And he went to Poroshenko. He forced the prosecutor out. Not only did he get his son out, but he got Burisma out. So one of the things we're going to reveal, we always ask, why did this happen? Mm-hmm. Why would a crooked Ukrainian oligarch whose company is about to be taken away from him, who's sitting in Switzerland with $5 billion he stole, all this is just fact. His name is Mykola Zlochevsky. This is all true, what I just said. He hires the son of the vice president, who just got thrown out of the Navy for failing a drug test, had been in and out of rehab most of his life, was a failure in business, and was involved in 2 or 3 other scandals involving his father before, including busted companies where they were using his name, Joe's name. Why would he hire this guy? Tell you why. He was buying Joe Biden to protect his company.
And that's what he did, ladies and gentlemen, basically. And, you know, I'm getting tired. I see what's panning out here, Jack. And what I'm seeing is they're setting up this guy that is of zero consequence to anybody except for a stripper down in Arkansas to take the fall for this. And there's no way in the world that Hunter Biden should take the fall for this. He should get nailed, and whatever that means. But this goes directly to Joe Biden, who is nothing. So that means it goes to Barack Obama.
It's one of many. And that's why you see this impeachment deal going on and how hard these impeachment managers from the House are trying to keep the Bidens from being involved. They're like overdoing it. They are bringing it up like some of the Republicans said, hey, they just opened up the door for a witness. We can call them up and start. But the thing is, you look at some of the Republicans, like Senator Lindsey Graham, they're saying, wait, no, we're not. No. And what you're going to see is that these folks, there's plenty of pictures of Lindsey Graham, Senator McCain, Klobuchar, along with Jovanovic.
Romney, probably Cornyn, probably ones that you can't even believe.
Kerry's stepson.
They passed that money around. They passed that money around like they did in Goodfellas, man. I'm telling you. Lindsey Graham has already said.
How the hell is the United States on the hook for $400 million of aid to Ukraine?
And that's not even a drop in the bucket.
That's just this year.
Wait till you hear the other two segments of Rudy Giuliani's interview. And as I said, yeah, you're going to hear the co-host too when you hear him. But I still think focusing on Hunter Biden, who gives a damn about Hunter Biden? He's a washed up crackhead that'll die in the next 5 years by his own hand. You know, don't even worry about Hunter Biden. This is about Barack Obama.
Kicked out of the Navy, his dad tried to hook him up with some cash.
Unreal. You know. And just think, why do you think that this was a golden opportunity for all these governments? They've got a crackhead, and they've got a guy that might be president, which he never will be. Like Rudy said, he can't even walk across the street.
You also have to go back to the reason why the Ukrainian government was overturned during the Obama administration. It was overturned by the Soros crew with help of Hillary Clinton because the Ukrainian government that was elected was favoring deals with Russia and didn't want to be a part of the European Union and was pushing back against being part of NATO. But so they are out, and all of a sudden the U.S. is in, and that's what these folks are trying to hide.
Absolutely. Let's go to King George. Ken, thanks for being a good sport, man. How you doing?
Oh, man, yeah, this whole thing over here in Ukraine is the more I hear about it, the more it becomes a more complicated mess. You know, and thank you, Jack, for your contribution to, you know, the more I hear about it, is like, wow, you know. But, okay, so you say we don't need to worry about Hunter Biden. All right, fine. But every one of these Democrat kids, Hunter Biden, you know, Nancy Pelosi's son.
Yes.
You know, I mean, they're all the hands are in that cookie jar over there after they toppled that government.
Let me clarify what I meant. When you have a mafia soldier that kills somebody and you go after him, that's not going to stop the problem. You have to get the guy that ordered him to do the killing to stop the problem.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying. Go for the parents, not the kids. The kids will get theirs. He'll get 10 years or whatever it is, but the parents are the ones that ought to be on the firing squad, in my opinion.
I 100% agree with that. You know, but it's just all this stuff that's coming out, and you know, but you get the media distraction,
and they should be part of it too. They are. I mean, they should be part of the people that have to pay.
One simple. Go ahead, Ken.
The biggest part of the media is they pick and choose based upon ratings. Remember this: ratings as what story is going to get us. You know, I mean, I work with government people. I think Rachel Maddow is preaching the truth, and I'm like, 90% of the time she's wrong. So you're an idiot for listening to her. All right? But she wants to say that, you know, because we're listening to Rush and Hannity and all these other people, you know, well, they're college dropouts. Okay, well, guess what? So's your boy, you know, Facebook clown, you know, Zuckerberg. He was a college dropout too. Right. So, you know,
college is overrated.
But they swear up and down that because you have a college degree, you know everything.
Oh.
I'm like,
you put it in basic U.S. government schooling and the executive branch. The president is the one who initiates foreign policy. Okay? He's the one that is elected.
Exactly.
The foreign policy of the United States right now is what President Trump wants it to be. What these folks are doing with this impeachment and the media and all, they're basically saying these lifer unelected bureaucrats in the State Department, the ambassadors, and the people that
DOJ, Department of the Army, Navy, every damn one.
Yeah, they're putting them up like they run the show. It's like, no, maybe they've been getting away with running the show for the last 50 years, but that's why President Trump was elected, to overturn this self-feeding entity, which is
parasites.
Yes, parasites, and what they are.
And I was taught that the President of the United States is not only the commander in chief, he is also the primary chief diplomat, going to what you just said, Jack, and also the nation's top law enforcement officer. He's the top of every one of those hills. And just to clarify something, Ken, I think that going for the ratings used to be the motivation, but I think since the president has come on the scene, I think they abandoned that business model. If you look at Rachel Maddow's ratings and you look at the rest of the ratings of the media, they've gone against their business model. It's just like Williams company's relationship with San Francisco with Bart. I mean, they're going to go pay more for something that they don't need to because their mind is in a pretzel. And I really mean that. These people, if you think about the amount of people that are, and I think we're going to win, don't misunderstand me, but there's still going to be millions of people that vote for a communist. They're voting against themselves. It's a freaking mental disorder. I don't know how to explain it. I really don't.
And they don't care, but you said it in the beginning of the show. When President Trump tweets, he reaches more people in an instant via the technology of today than the whole viewership of all the networks combined can, right?
Yeah. Ken, let me tell you. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Jack.
I'll just say, why would you spend time kissing the rear end of any media company? Just sit there and put it out there. The American people are looking. Your enemies and your supporters at the same time, right?
Yeah, like you said, something I didn't even really bring into the equation. Press conferences are over. Yeah. You don't have that anymore. That circus is gone. Thank God. I mean,
he does them impromptu with a helicopter chiming in.
Oh, they're great. With the camera on him. Nobody knows who's asking. Nobody knows what John Roberts looks like anymore. But Ken, a good news story. The Washington Free Beacon, I think that's the name of the operation, came out with a report. Impeachment is driving 1,000 Republican candidates to run for House seats this year. That is good news, and that is their business model blowing up in their faces.
Well, I've been watching, I'm a member of a couple of Facebook groups down here, the Virginia Rising and a number of them down here in Virginia. And it's enlightening to see, certain people that are going to step up to the plate and possibly run against some of these uncontested. Now, there's a lot of people that are ticked off in some of the comments that I've seen that they're ticked off with the GOP down here in Virginia.
Because they're feckless. Because the GOP in Virginia sucks just as much as Pennsylvania's. Mine sucks too. You might as well not have one.
Exactly. And when you have, 6, 7, 12 seats that are run uncontested, for years, and then they see what's happening going on here in Richmond right now, where they're done with gun control or the Second Amendment. They've already moved on to where if you call out the governor, the lieutenant governor, and on social media, you can be potentially labeled. I think they want to label it as a misdemeanor. If you call Governor Coon Man fucking Coon Man. Well, hey, guess what? Your buddies in college called you that all, with the 4 years you were going to college. And
it wasn't me in the picture.
Now.
I cannot confirm or deny which one I was in that photo.
Right. Well, I got some good news for you, Ken, and Jack knew about this, but we almost had a guest tonight. Hopefully, he's going to come on next week. He already told me he would. Retired United States Army Colonel Kurt Schlichter. He writes for townhall.com, and he wrote an article.
Oh, yeah, he's a good dude.
He wrote an article titled Peaceful Insurgency Tips for Virginian Patriots. So hopefully we'll get him on next week, and you can call in and talk right to Colonel Schlichter. But he's a very smart man, and I respect him a lot. Hopefully he'll be on. He has some good tips for going forward in Virginia.
So apparently a lot of the stuff that they're looking at, pass or not pass, doesn't take effect till July 1st. So
that's the way they roll.
I did see a post where somebody was like, okay, well, let's do the same thing we just did on the 20th, on the 1st, and see how many people get picked up as felons.
Right. All right, Ken, thanks for calling. I got a lot on the plate here, man. You're going to enjoy the rest of the show. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thanks, Ken.
Oh, I always enjoy the show, brother.
All right, my man.
Hey.
Ken from King George, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go back to Fox and Friends and Rudy Giuliani, Chapter 2.
He was that money, which is at least $8 million, and it could go up to 20, based on the investigation they're now doing. But at least $8 million in laundered money, some of it. That was to buy Joe Biden's protection if and when Poroshenko came after his company. And then when it happened,
listen to the co-host.
In 1 month, I've got February 2nd of 2016, they raid Burisma offices and close it down. So much for there was no investigation going on. February 15th, they get a notification from Latvia that Hunter Biden is involved in the money laundering. Have it in writing, translated from Russian. And then right after that is when Biden says, get rid of Shokin. And Shokin will testify to that, and I will show you a document that in September of last year, Shokin was taken to the hospital with mercury poisoning.
All right, so let me just get a word in. I know you.
And you know that this happens. You know this happens in Ukraine and Russia.
Right. So
the
Mr.
method
Mayor,
of choice is poisoning.
So let's just say that everything you say proves 100% true.
It is 100% true.
Would you also say that the way you approached it, in the short term, which we're in the middle of, has made things worse for the president?
No, I would say the way I approach it is for the benefit of the American people. When the vice president of the United States corrupts the president of another country, that is about as horrendous a crime as you can find.
But don't
Not
we have
only
an
that,
apparatus to pursue these things?
the apparatus to pursue
and you
it
could
was.
still lead it through.
Shut up,
Brian. You're being totally naive.
In what way?
The apparatus to look at this refused to look at it. The witnesses will tell you they tried to get this information to us for a year. They were blocked by the embassy. They hired a lawyer to go to the Justice Department to tell them about Ukrainian collusion. And since they didn't know anything about Russian collusion, they were basically thrown out. They will tell you that at least one of the FBI agents was corrupt, and they didn't trust any longer the FBI or the Justice Department because they were convinced that they were still being controlled by Hillary Clinton partisans. Absolutely. Now, these are foreigners, but not a bad conclusion. I couldn't go to them. They wouldn't let me go to them, and if I went to them, they would have laughed at me. I had to prove it first. I had to go prove it because we have, unfortunately, at the highest levels of some of these agencies, they've been either corrupted or intimidated. You know what they're intimidated about? Biden should have been prosecuted already for bribery. It wasn't only one bribe, it was two bribes. The first bribe was Poroshenko, through a lobbying company.
The former leader of Ukraine.
Poroshenko takes over the country. Zlochevsky flees with his $5 billion. Right. Zlochevsky's afraid that Poroshenko is going to take his company, and then Joe Biden gets announced as point man for Ukraine by Obama. Point man, whatever that is. I know what it is, actually. And he says he's going to be giving out the money. They had $800,000 left in their national bank. That's how much money Yanukovych stole. Zlochevsky being one of his mafia members. Zlochevsky had $5 billion of it. They're coming after his money. They're coming after his company. All of a sudden, Biden is announced as the most important guy in Ukraine. He's going to give out the money.
So there's $5 billion, a lot of it from U.S. taxpayers, and the country was left with less than $1 million. The country was left with less than $1 million in their national treasury. Think about that.
It was robbed from the Ukrainian people.
Stolen. Yes, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
If you listen to the way that Rudy's doing this, a lot of folks are trying to label him as a kook, right? Mm-hmm. He's lost a screws loose.
Rudy Giuliani is going to knock the shit out of this whole thing.
Yes.
Mark my words. You heard it right here on Cold War Radio. Rudy Giuliani is going to be the person that everybody remembers when this is over.
If he makes it through this. I worry about his life right now.
You know, I do too. But, you know, by the same token, I was talking to my wife about this because I feel this about the president too. There's not much more they can do except for kill him. And
right. That's it.
I know
the pressure's getting there.
Right, but I know Pittsburgh's not that big of a city, right? But I mean, urban life is urban life, and people that live the urban life understand the threat they're under all the time. And these two guys, I'm just talking about me. These two guys are top of the line guys. These are out there on the rope line and everything, you know. I know anything's possible, but I would rather have this in their hands than anybody else's hands. In other words, I think they can get through it, both of them.
No doubt. I mean, what he remember? I think it was last week or the week before that, where you were playing a little bit of his OAN, One America News, where he teamed up with them when the mainstream media was basically. He would come out and would say what he was saying, and they would try to shut him down.
Right.
And they basically labeled it, "What's up? What's wrong with Rudy?" Boom, boom, boom. He said, "I'm going with OAN." Right.
And sooner or later, the audiences of this corporate media are going to figure it out. It's going to be undeniable. It's going to be undeniable. And when that happens, what the media is doing is the same thing the Democrat Party's doing. They're making themselves obsolete.
And it's
Nobody's
not just
them.
them. We talked about Lindsey Graham. What he wants he doesn't want this Biden stuff to come out.
Lindsey Graham specifically opposes bringing Hunter Biden in on a subpoena.
Right.
Specifically. Hunter Biden. Why? I mean, you know why. I know why. Yeah. And the American people know why.
There's a reason why he was the character witness for Senator Menendez.
Unbelievable, man. These sexual deviants, when you find out about, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there's pictures with Lindsey Graham and Adam Schiff together. I really wouldn't, because they're both freaks, man.
At Buck's place.
Yeah, at Buck's place, sure. Or maybe over at Lindsey's place. Who knows?
Who knows? Right.
Let's go to Marlene in Eugene, Oregon. Hello, Marlene.
Hi, Marlene.
Hello. I agree with you. I think that Rudy will be the one that we remember. I like him anyway as a person, but I think he'll be one who, if he gets a chance to really share his knowledge, I think a few heads are going to roll. At least I hope so. I do too.
You know, I got to tell you, let me ask you a question. We're going to go off topic a little bit here because I started, I'm about ready to make some borscht, right? And my father was a real big support. He liked books because obviously he was before the internet age. And I've got a lot of books, man. I mean, I have, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any kids in your family or grandkids that are maybe the school life isn't really for them or whatever, teach them to enjoy reading. You know, don't tell them what to read, but teach them to enjoy reading. And Marlene, if you got something playing in the background, could you turn it down, please?
Okay.
Because I'm getting this echo. It's killing me.
Okay, I got rid of it. I know what it was. Okay.
So he's got these that's all right. He's got these time life. My house, when you first walked into my house, the first room on the right was my living room. And we weren't allowed, we weren't allowed in it. You know what I mean? That's where the nice furniture was. And the whole wall, the whole wall was a bookshelf, 2 bookshelves straddling a fireplace. And we had, my dad was into like the Time Life series. So I've got all these, and Better Homes and Gardens and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
But I have all these
remember those too.
Cookbooks and albums. I mean, I remember having an album that you could listen to that had, I'm going to mess his name up. John Glenn. First astronaut to ever orbit the Earth.
Oh, wow.
And all the
my God.
radio transmit. Anyway, my point is, when we were starting to talk about borscht a couple, months ago or whatever. I said, let me go in there and see what I got. And I knew I had this, but I found a Russian cooking book in the series Foods of the World. And I looked up Russian cooking, and I'm reading this book, and it's like, man, this is more of a history book than a cookbook. And then the recipe came up, the part of the chapter. But first I had to learn that Russians are Slavs and Ukrainians are Slavs, but the terrain of the two countries is so different that the black earth of Ukraine supports more vegetables and things like that. And they were going on about the different bakery, how many baked goods come out of Ukraine and Russia and things like that. And I'm looking, I wanted to ask you, because there's a couple different recipes going through my head, and the audience is going, man, are you guys really talking about this? Yeah, I am. So in the end, do you put the sour cream in the borscht? And I also found out by reading this that it's not borscht. It's borscht without a T. You know why? Because there's no T in the Russian alphabet. There's nothing that resembles a T. So anyway.
Putin's begs to differ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
myself, I don't put sour cream on borscht. I have had it, though.
Because that's
when I make it myself, I leave it off.
And I was thinking the same thing, because I think I'd rather have a clear broth. It kind of reminds me. It reminds me.
It tastes better that way myself. I really do.
All right, I'm glad to hear that, because I kind of equate it with calzone. There's two different folded pizza products, calzone and stromboli. And
those are two different things.
Calzone brings that ricotta cheese in the mix, and to me, all that does is dilute the tomato sauce. It gets the cream. I don't really like that. You know what I mean? So good. I'm glad that's all I had. Good. What else is on your mind?
Yeah. I guess the other thing, I put the link in the chat earlier about U.S. bank employee. She did a good deed on Christmas Eve, helping out this guy who didn't have it. His money was in the bank, but it was on hold.
Right.
And just because they fired her because she went over and left work on her lunch break and gave this guy $20 so he could put some gas in his car.
Right.
And then the bank ends up firing her, and I'm like, you idiot.
That's saying, I think that's trending.
Broke protocol and all this kind of crap, and I'm like, who cares?
I think that kind of stuff is trending. It's trending, though. I mean, you hear this, the corporations of this country, man, the CEOs have lost all sense of Americanism, in my opinion. I mean, it's like you hear these stories every single day, about a company that doesn't back their employees up jack. I mean, you hear this like with Chick-fil-A and all these different things. It's unreal.
Yeah.
What I get out of this discussion is you like comfort food. You think of the comfort food, the recipes and the culture from around the world. The ones that rise to the top are usually the ones of the folks that have struggled to eat. This is stuff that folks brought together and made because that's what they had. This isn't the royalty and all this, but all of the best recipes and the most loved
100%
comfort foods are the people that created this.
That's the truth.
And Marlene, I gotta swing back to that book I was just reading, because on the Ukrainian page was something that my mother used to make that I forgot about, and I'm interested to know if you've ever heard of it. And I'm not going to say Kiev. I'm not going to do it, but chicken Kiev. Have you eaten that?
Have I eaten what?
Chicken Kiev.
Chicken Kiev. Yes, I have. My mom used to make that. Yes, I have.
I mean, that's like a bologna sandwich. That's a staple in Ukrainian diet, and it's very simple. It's very simple.
It's very good.
It's a boneless chicken breast.
Yeah.
That's cut in half, laterally, and then you put a half a stick of butter inside, beat the snot out of it with a tenderizing hammer underneath canvas or burlap or whatever, so you seal the edges, and then you put it in the egg wash and some breadcrumbs and fry it, and it is good, man. I remember my mom. Boy, that was
wonderful.
Good. Especially
that's how
I haven't had it in a long time, but it's delicious.
Sal's in the chat room. Corn Pop said he was raised up. He used to sit there and do the Rocky move to beat that butter into them chicken breasts before cooked it up.
It's good stuff, man. And you got to really beat the edges so it seals it, so it stays, so the butter stays in. Good stuff. Good stuff. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Very good stuff.
All right, Marlene, final comments. Got to go.
Oh, I guess real quick, I was going to mention, too, with all this flu virus going around, one of our, not the main school district where I am, but one that's adjacent to us, we've had a couple of the elementary schools had the flu virus scare, and there's kids parents were taking their kids out of school, not because they were sick, but because they didn't want them to get sick. So, knock on wood, I haven't had any flu issues, but I just was kind of...
And right off the bat, what they did was some of the leftist media have already come out and said that white supremacists are pushing Chinese hate over this. And I'm thinking, close the goddamn airports and do it right now.
Oh, I know.
Not tomorrow, right now. No more Chinese flights coming into this country. Fly around it, go somewhere else. And that's just the way it is. It's just
Ralph in the chat room. Breaking 4 people in New York have been quarantined and tested for the coronavirus, believed to have been spread from China.
Yep.
And, the thing that gets me is they talk about all these citizens that are coming. I'll bet the citizen in Washington, I'll bet his first name starts with an X or a Z. I'm tired of hearing.
Probably does. Yeah, there was that young guy in Seattle who was over there, and he came back. Yeah.
That's what this is. And until we, look, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand your culture. Our culture is A1A at the top. I know we have problems, and we've especially got some cultural problems. But our civilization is not, let me rephrase that. Somali, Chinese, Indian, even English civilization is not on par with us. And if you think it is, go ahead out there and eat a freaking monkey or eat a bat or eat a rat and see what the hell happens to you. All right? We're past all that. You fools are still there. We're not there anymore. We don't do that. We just don't do it.
Yeah, and maybe if they would quit doing it, maybe they would be healthier.
Maybe. Thanks for calling, Marlene. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Marlene from Eugene, Oregon, ladies and gentlemen. And closer to ground zero, let's welcome Sean from California. Hello, Sean.
Hey, Hutch and everybody. How you all doing?
Hello, Sean.
Yeah, this coronavirus is this is some scary stuff, man. I just talked to a friend over in Bakersfield, California, and he said someone got quarantined in Illinois. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't been able to find any story on that, to find any validity on that. But if it happens here in California, we got a bigger problem, containing the state.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to try to flee, and we don't know who's going to be sick, who's going to be healthy. Oh, that's going to be a nightmare.
Well, the one thing I would ask everybody to keep in mind, and I said this the other night, remember that we have gone virtually to war with China with no bullets yet, with our trade deals. This is no small thing. This is a huge thing. We are taking food out of the mouths of Chinese people by what we're doing. And that's not to say that it's wrong. We're just getting payback for the last 50 years. The last 30 years that destroyed my city and allowed it to become a communist shithole because of the transfer of wealth. And so I would just ask that watch this, but also understand that there's trillions of dollars at stake out there, ladies and gentlemen, and the people that benefited from globalism are not all Chinese. Most of them are Americans, and they're in the Republican Party. Don't forget that. Don't ever forget watching Justin Amash abandon President Trump because he started winning in China. And that goes for Pat Toomey, and it goes for a lot of them in the Republican Party, and also 100% of the Democrat Party, Sean. I got some other callers on here, so one more comment, and then I got to let you go.
Okay, my biggest question, have you heard about this Impossible Whopper situation with Burger King?
I mean, I've seen it out there. I would never eat it.
Well, apparently the report that I read said that it had like 50 to 10 times more of that female stuff, that estrogen.
Oh, no doubt in my mind. No doubt about it.
You don't say.
I was like, wait, what?
Hey, I got to tell you something.
I was shocked because I used to eat there a lot.
I got to tell you something.
Money.
When I was out at my camp, when I was out at Camp Vienna, I had a contractor, one of the few people that I deal with that was older than me, right? And this contractor, me and him talked for about 2 hours. And I'm 150 miles north of Pittsburgh on the same river, on the Allegheny River. And he told me, man, I can't believe you drink the water down there. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? I drank it my whole life. It's got fluoride in it. I had three cavities my whole life. I was never someone that was against fluoride being in the water. All right, it's done wonders for me, as I said, with my cavity situation, and I love candy. But he said, man, there's women's, what'd he say? There's women. There's some. He said there's some things that the water treatment, because I brought the water treatment plant up. There's some things that water treatment plant can't get out, and it's women's hormones. And I was like, oh shit, man, maybe that's why all these queers are running around everywhere. I don't know. But I'm just saying. All right, Sean, thanks for calling, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, peace out, guys.
All right, let's go to Missouri and go to Ralph is next. Hi, Ralph. Ralph, you're up.
Hey, Ralph.
All right, Ralph.
Hey.
There he is.
There he is.
Go ahead, Ralph. All right.
Thing in China is gone. First off.
All right, Ralph. This is the second time, man. You got to find a place somewhere where you are that you get a better signal to your cell tower.
How's that?
That's good.
Okay. The coronavirus is a mutated virus that came from animals, and it has went from animals to humans, and humans can to another human through casual contact, touch, being in to somebody coughing or something. It's that easy. And because it's a mutated virus,
Ralph, man. I don't know if they're shadow banning you or what, man, but you're breaking up.
They don't want his
they don't want us to hear you, man. You got to find a place where the phone signal works. And
they had some. I saw some in the chat room, and I saw a little article early. I mean, there's a place in Wuhan, which China has basically one of their cities they quarantine and basically shut down. But their article came out that that's one of the areas in China where they deal with viruses and experimentation on that type of thing, which would, I guess, would equate to what, Fort Detrick here in the United States?
Fort Detrick, sure, in Maryland. Yeah, I can tell you all about that place.
Yeah.
So, Ralph, if you can get back on, we welcome you in, but we got to be able to hear you. Let's go to Kentucky and welcome Rico. Hi, Rico.
Hey, what's going on?
It's on your mind.
I wanted to know your opinion about a radio show that's out there. Actually, two of them. One of them is called Ground Zero, and the other one's called Coast to Coast AM. I listen to it quite a bit, and sometimes they go on to a topic that just makes me laugh. What do you think about these two shows?
Never heard of either one of them, but what's the topic?
Topics are just things that are supernatural. Last night on, I think it was Ground Zero, it was about Bigfoot, and they had someone who actually recorded Bigfoot. I'm like, okay. And I listened to it. Last night, and there was a lot of reverb in there, so I heard a lot of electronical things going on in it. So I'm still not a believer in Bigfoot.
I'm not either.
Talk about vampires. They talk about a whole bunch of stuff.
I remember watching the movie when I was growing up, and it was an entire movie that was centered around like 7 seconds of blurry ass video. And I wasn't sold at the time. And really, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, we got 8 billion people on the planet. We would have pictured it. Yeah.
I just, it's not my thing, man. The whole supernatural. Now, there are some conspiracies that I know are possible. And we're living right in the middle of one of them. I mean, our entire government apparatus was set up to make money for people, and it wasn't for the citizens. And if the Lord would not have presented Donald J. Trump to us, God, I can't even imagine. Can you imagine, Jack, if Romney was president or McCain or, I mean,
it's all well. If you think about it, if you look at it, and to answer Rico's question, I have listened quite a few times to C2C Coast to Coast. I think that's Art Bell's place, but George Knapp out of Las Vegas hosts that show every now and then, and I always liked his investigative reports. He doesn't make what do you call it, conclusions, but he just presents the evidence and lets people talk and then let you decide what's going on. But which I like, it's not basically saying yay or nay. It's just saying, hey, there's anomalies out there, and we ain't quite, we don't know if we're getting the right answers from the government, which is what Hutch was just saying. Is that it's been set up to milk the populace of tax money and use it in dark and deep operations, and who knows where it goes. Go back to Ollie North.
Yeah, have you noticed callers though when they call in, they actually believe some of this stuff?
Oh, a lot of them do. Yeah, there's people out there. There's people out there.
That reminds me of a Democratic follower.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get behind things that are just so supernatural that you can't explain them. I'm more into. I'll use a phrase that Rush Limbaugh uses. I'm more into realville. I want to deal with what's going on right now that is going to affect my life or the life of our country going forward. And I don't. I like listening to entertainment. But people that come out with these conspiracy theories, I'll give a good example. I'm not even going to go there. There's so many out there. The threshold for checking facts is so low that I don't take them serious most of the time.
Well,
not to say that those shows.
I hope you guys go back to caving in the teeth, having Giuliani caving in the teeth of other people.
We're going there. We're going there real soon, Rico.
Got more.
And let me tell you, thank you for listening to the show, and thanks for sticking with us, brother. I appreciate that.
You guys got something great going on. I'm never leaving, brother. We'll talk to you later.
Hey, thanks, Rico.
Thank you. You just made my night, brother. Thanks.
We didn't ask what cigar he was smoking tonight.
Oh, yeah, we blew that. I'm going to, Valerie, hang on. I want to go back to Ralph because I know he has something to say. We'll get to you in just a minute. Ralph, are you standing on top of the tower, my brother?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect now.
There he is.
Got a whole room full of me and all that?
I got you.
Anyway, two things. One, what you just mentioned, talking about Realville and all that. Back when I was a kid growing up, it was automatically assumed that whatever Walter Cronkite or Dan Rather or whoever.
Eric Severide, David Brinkley, remember all them? Yeah.
that they would not put out bad information, false information, unless it was checked 3 times and so on and so forth.
Concur.
But in today's world, it's not anything like that. These guys will sit there and tell you anything as long as they can attract or hold an audience so they can charge confiscatory rates to advertisers, regardless if there's any damn truth to it at all. And this Senate impeachment hearing is a classic example of that. 98% of everything they've said either repeated 4 or 5 times to make it true, or they just throw in whatever in the kitchen sink and go from there. And people
100% right.
automatically believe that, well, it must be or have some truth to it. Otherwise, why would they put it out there?
And, the bottom line on that, Ralph, is going to be, like I said earlier, there is going to come a time, and I believe that Rudy Giuliani might be the catalyst for this, but there's going to come a point in time where it's all laid bare, and there's no way that Steltler or Chuck Todd or any of these people are going to be able to talk their way out of it. And at that point in time, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Oh, yeah, it's going to get real ugly because, like I said, the last show, that Durham's out there talking to the DOD and Justice Department, looking at files of some sort, nothing specific. But, as long as he's out there still poking around and Barr's giving him free rein to do whatever and declassify whatever, like I said, there's a couple of them, James Comey and his second in command and all that, that's been trying to make a deal with the Justice Department, but they no dice, pal, just wait. But the other thing that I called originally for was this coronavirus.
Right.
Now, playing armchair doctor for a minute, this coronavirus was created in animals. And China here this past month also had a virus that forced them to put down all the pigs that they have. It killed off their livestock.
Yeah.
So now the disease is mutated, and mutated viruses are a BIH anyway in the medical community. And it's transferred to humans, and now humans can give it to each other by simple casual contact, reaching out and touch someone or touch a surface that they've been to.
But, the bottom line is, thou shalt not eat rats. Thou shalt not eat bats. And thou shalt not eat dogs. When you do these things, I want to, Ralph, and I still got a ton of stuff. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 7 more clips to play. But I want to challenge you with something, sir. I want you to check out Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat. But see if you can find her work on the Chinese government takeover of the United States of America's pork industry. Check that out. It's the best work she ever did, and she's a communist, but I uncovered this work anyway, and you would not believe the influence that the communist government of China has on our pig farms. It's unbelievable, and when you couple that with stories like this virus, it's freaking terrifying. Smithfield bacon, besides the bacon that I make for myself and smoke myself, which I do, Smithfield is my favorite brand, and the Chinese government owns that company. And that, to me, is illegal as hell, and anybody who allowed that to happen should be strung up, in my opinion. Final comments, sir.
Yeah, no, but it's got a 2-week incubation period without any outward symptoms, and the only thing, which I guess about all they can do at these various airports and such, is they set up these FLIR cameras, and anybody that's running a fever, according to this camera and all that, they snatch them up by the short hairs and start monitoring them, or else they walk into the hospital. I'm sick and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And we know that that's not really effective, but wow, what are we going to do? Thanks for calling, Ralph. We always love your call, my man.
Later.
And put a piece of tape on the floor wherever you were with the phone, because that worked good. Valerie Z from Boca Raton, Florida. You want to come straight on, or do you want to hear the
Okay, hi, Hudson Jack.
You want to come?
I'm gonna
hold on. You want to come straight on, or do you want to hear?
On what?
Or do you want to hear the final Rudy clip?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll listen.
We'll play that clip, and then you can come on with your comments.
All good. All good.
Then he hires Biden's son. You know what happened in between? He made a deal with Biden. You be on board to protect me against Poroshenko taking my company. When they moved to take the company, that's when Biden came in and had the prosecutor fired. And within 4 months, the crooked oligarch who's sitting with $5 billion comes back to the Ukraine. He is not prosecuted. Right. He is sitting there fat and happy with his company. And then we got another bribe. You don't think the president of the Ukraine shared in that $5 billion that the crook kept?
Rudy?
The bribe to the president of the Ukraine, the amount of money, I can't be absolutely sure of. Let's say it's well in excess of $10 million.
You know, the entire crowd has...
Now, that shouldn't be revealed? From a lawyer who finds out about this? Am I going to cover it up the way the Democrats and the media cover it up? Absolutely not. I prosecuted too many corruption cases to sit by and watch my country sold out by a vice president who did it 2 other times at least in China.
So how does this end?
This ends, hopefully, with Biden finally being put under investigation. You don't think if these things were said about Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr., they wouldn't be under investigation immediately? But instead of putting them under investigation, they're coming after me.
Rudy,
they want to kill me.
Shut up. When are you going to present...
In terms of reputation.
Pardon the interruption.
Shokin, they're trying to really kill.
Rudy, when are you going to present the evidence? Because you tell a compelling story. People want the proof.
Today at noon, I will give an introduction. Starting next week, I will present witnesses. I have them all on tape.
Okay.
We'll review them one at a time. We'll show there are 2 bribes. Not one, actually 3. First one was Zlochevsky buying Biden, Joe Biden. The second one was Biden bribing Poroshenko to drop the case. And the third one was the huge amount of money that Poroshenko got, the president of Ukraine, for dropping the case.
And does the State Department and the White House know everything you were doing?
The State Department, I gave them my evidence. That's when they moved the ambassador out. And they never bothered to investigate the allegations that she interfered in 4 investigations, that she was campaigning for Hillary Clinton during the 2016 election.
The ambassador.
The ambassador. That one of the cases she had dropped was on George Soros' company, Antac.
I didn't hear any of this yesterday.
Antac was gathering dirty information on Trump. That on January 16th of 2016, there was a meeting in the National Security Council, and members of Obama's National Security Council, some people think, including the present whistleblower, told Ukrainian officials to dig up dirt on Trump Jr., and Manafort. In the White House, they said, dig up dirt. And they had the gall to investigate Trump for 2.5 years and $35 million for a phony collusion with Russia when they were colluding to the tune of millions of dollars with the Ukraine. They were charging him with the crime that they know they committed. And the reason these phonies are carrying out this impeachment proceeding is there's a lot more Democratic corruption in Ukraine than you ever thought. You think it's just Biden who was cashing in the Ukraine? And then every time you hear the word Biden was Obama's point man, there's something that follows. The Biden family makes millions of dollars. They got an investment in a $1.5 billion housing program in Iraq when Biden was named point man. They made anywhere from $8 to $20 million in Ukraine, and they got $1.5 billion from the Bank of China when he was point man for China. And the other thing about it is Biden family got rich, millions each place. In each place, he failed the United States.
Right. And where's that money?
He failed. He didn't get a status of forces agreement in Iraq. Right. He couldn't do a damn thing about corruption in Ukraine except make it worse. Joe Biden is a laughingstock in Ukraine. He would go there. He went there 13 times. He'd go there and say, you shouldn't be corrupt. And they'd look at him and say, what, are you kidding? Your son's got a no-show job for millions of dollars. You're in the pocket of Zlochevsky, and you're telling us not to be corrupt. You know how that hurts the United States of America?
I have a feeling you could go clear till noon when your podcast starts.
Yeah, but you keep talking, man.
Rudy
Let him
Giuliani.
talk.
We're going to be watching. We're going to be watching.
That's the real case.
A lot of headlines out of that.
That's only the tip of the iceberg. There are other people involved. There's a lot more money involved. There was a pattern of corruption there.
Yeah, we got to go. And the president wants you to continue this? The president wants to get you to continue this investigation?
Would you like me to give it up? Would you like me to just say, okay, Biden can keep his $8 million that he got in bribes?
All right, that's enough of that. But there you go. And Jack, don't ever do that, or you'll lose your job, man. I'm telling you, the way these co-hosts are, it's like you heard the crowd and the enthusiasm when he was introduced, and then you keep trying to interrupt them. It's disgusting.
But you know what they're doing? They're trying to stick to a commercial schedule, and
I know.
also they have both parties' talking points notes. So when Rudy goes beyond what they've been delivered, they script write it.
Oh, I'll never forget. I'll never forget Valerie when they were like, Eric Chiramella. No, we have never heard of him. We have no idea who that guy is, and we've been talking about the guy for 3 days. But we're just going to pretend. Valerie Z from Boca Raton. Hello.
Hi, Jack and Hutch. We have a twin team on our side here, the two New Yorkers. I grew up with Donald Trump, the fantastic businessman in New York, and Rudy Giuliani, the mayor of New York, who was the bomb. Who thinks that they're going to get away with any crap here with these two on board? And really, they've worked together longer than we even realize. It seems like
you know what
Giuliani
people want to know? They want to know when someone's going to jail. I tell people that's the question. More often than not, when I'm walking through an airport or something, people walk up to me. When is somebody going to jail for the wrongdoing that took place in the Trump-Russia investigation or even the Clinton investigation?
And I guarantee you, it's not going to be Lindsey Graham that puts him in jail. It's going to be frickin' Rudy Giuliani.
That's so absolutely correct. Listen.
That's going to be a hell of a paddy wagon, because you're talking about a majority of the folks in Congress, along with a lot of these people that are unelected bureaucrats in D.C., a.k.a. the swamp.
Let's buy stock in the Orange Suit Company.
Yeah. And, really, when you look at Rudy Giuliani and his experience, it stems from a guy named Blakely, who was a guy that worked in the Justice Department in the early 80s and late 70s and early 80s, who premiered the RICO statute, which and Rudy Giuliani was the first guy to use this statute. And basically what it does, RICO is the
racketeering.
Racketeering. What's the rest of it? Anyway.
ICO.
Yeah.
ICO. It's the ICO.
Racketeering, influence, corrupt operations is what it is.
Right.
And what it basically does is says that you don't have to prosecute Hunter Biden. If you can prove that there's a crime family, which the Democrat crime family, and really you could probably go higher than that and say the congressional crime family or the federal government crime family, because it certainly goes beyond the Democrat Party.
Right. You get to the root.
But if you can prove that exists, then every crime goes against every member, concentrating on the leaders. And that's why I was saying, hey, screw Hunter Biden. Let's go to Joe Biden and Barack Obama. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton.
That's beautiful.
Well, you start right. Yesterday, the news came out that the FISA court basically rejected and said 2 of the FISA requests that we authorized should have never been authorized.
Right. Yeah.
Because of it was.
And now what's going to happen with that? What's going to happen with that? That's Carter Page.
Right. And that's only the beginning, because all the other FISA requests were just as bad as those 2 that they've just rejected.
Right.
It's eyes on.
I just wanted to sneak in with a local Florida story, and this is real quick. You know, we've had
Valerie. You take your time, man. You guys must.
I just want to make everyone laugh for a moment.
All right.
We've had this green iguana problem that somebody from South America or wherever brought these creatures in here that don't really belong in our climate, and they have overgrown and eaten up everybody's plants and shrubs and crapped all over the water. And, I mean, we have like a real problem. So a year ago, everybody started yelling, "Oh, get these cages and get these people out here to kill these
Just shoot
things."
them.
Fire up the grill.
Well, wait a minute. Eventually, they said you can go into your yard and shoot them or stab them. Well, believe me, you can't stab them. You can't catch them. And these things are big. We're not talking about little. These are big, ugly, green monsters, and they climb up the trees. So now, just this past week, we had a real cold spell.
I saw it.
Now,
falling out of the
nobody knew
trees.
this. But they climb up the trees, and they just get paralyzed by the cold, and they fall. Now, people thought they were dead. Like, they thought they were really dead. So there was this big story in the local paper that, and nobody knew, they actually go into hibernation like bears. And this guy decided, I got a great idea. I'm going to pile them into the back of my car, and I'm going to throw these bastards into the dump and let them get totally squashed up. Well, that was a great idea, except what happened is when he put them in the warm car, they came back to life, and they got angry and attacked him in his own car.
Nice.
And this was in our local news down here.
Jurassic Park.
It really was. And these things are hibernating. They're not dead. They just
Can you eat them?
fall.
Can you eat them? Or is
barbecued iguana.
Or is that like eating a monkey?
I can't imagine how bad that tastes, but if it came to the pork being communist, maybe we would have to look at these green iguanas on the barbecue. I can't imagine what it would taste like. Frogs, I don't know.
I always love your call, Valerie. I always love your call. Say hi.
Thank you, Hutch. I'll let you get busy with the rest of your show. I just wanted to bring this little humor.
Say hi to Bruce, and thank you.
I will. Take care, guys.
Everything you do. Valerie Z, ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite listeners.
I think Florida is the state with the most invasive species. I think one time was a hurricane. I think a lot of the fish. I mean, you can catch peacock bass down there, crazy. I mean, all the crazy looking South American fish.
Now
they can survive there.
You're right. And let's go to the South Pacific. They smoke a lot of weed in Hawaii. They have some of the best weed in the world.
You don't say.
Hawaii, and I think one of the representatives in Hawaii, Representative Hirono, has been probably partaking in that because she doesn't think that the Democrats have been after President Trump since day one.
What?
That's all just a conspiracy theory.
So I think Adam did a really good job of laying out the facts. And then what we got from the president's people were really what I found astounding was they're still saying that we were out to get the president from day one, some kind of a weird conspiracy theory that I have to say even Kavanaugh brought out. They really believe this stuff. I find it incredible. And so they're still focusing on the process. And aside from one reference that I heard that the president did nothing wrong, ignoring all of the testimony and evidence that was adduced in the House impeachment inquiry, that he did nothing wrong in spite of all of the evidence, as I said, that this was a big conspiracy to get Ukraine to do his political bidding using our money, $400 million almost of taxpayer money as a bribe, that he did nothing wrong. It's incredible.
That clip was less than 1 minute long, and she repeated herself during
Pass
that clip.
the Dutchie on the left-hand side. But that old song.
That joint, my friend, pass it over to me. Unbelievable, man. I'll tell you. And there's so many other things. Let's go back, Jack. To that's pretty cool. Let's go back, Jack. No, to Lieutenant Colonel Vindman and Marsha Blackburn, Senator, and her feelings on this traitor.
You can do whatever you want during the trial. I mean, the House wants to dictate the rules in the Senate. The media want to dictate what everybody understands about the trial. They won't want anyone to know the truth about the Bidens. Now they want to dictate how you spend your time during the trial. I mean, and they say Trump's a dictator. Come on.
They ought to realize people like you and I are chief mamas in charge, and we know how to do more than one thing at a time.
Yeah, I'll say. All right, Senator Blackburn, you also criticized Democrat impeachment witness Lieutenant Colonel Vindman on Twitter.
Yes.
And then his lawyer shot back late tonight saying that a member of the Senate would choose to take to Twitter to spread slander about a member of the military is a testament to cowardice. So apparently a member of the military can never be criticized. Okay. What's your response?
And we honor the service of every man and woman in uniform. But here's the thing. You look at what his commanders, Vindman's commanders, have said. And he has a problem with judgment. That has been pointed out. He had one commander that said, he is a political activist in uniform.
Lieutenant
he
Colonel
has had problems
Hickman.
with going outside of his chain of command, which is exactly what he did here. And I talk to a lot of military members on a regular basis. They have a real problem with some of the things and the manner in which he conducted himself in this matter. What we want to do is make certain that we get to the heart of the issues here. We want to be certain the president is treated fairly. We want to make certain that we move through this and that we get back to the people's business. Things that they want to see us do, like putting more judges on the federal bench.
Well, Senator, again, we have to pop the liberal left-wing radical balloons during this impeachment trial. It gives us a good opportunity to expose their tactics. They have a tactic with members of the military who favor their point of view or their outcome, removing Trump. So if you're a member of the military who likes Trump, then you could be criticized morning, noon, and night. But if you're Vindman, who clearly thinks Trump shouldn't be shouldn't be there, blah blah, then you can never criticize him, ever say anything.
That's right. The liberals, the left, they are great at situational ethics. They're great at things like, and people need to listen to what they're actually saying. My goodness, Adam Schiff yesterday in his opening said, look, we can't trust that Trump is not going to cheat in 2020 and that the ballot boxes are going to be fair.
He doesn't trust the people.
I mean, it was like, we're going to take away your right to decide who you're going to vote for in 2020. That's the things that I hope people are listening to see what their real objective is. It is to control, to redo 2016 and to preempt.
So that was on Laura Ingraham. And then immediately after that, on The View, Susan Navarro, I think her name is, and boy, she's gaining some weight. Why is it, Jack, that every time one of these GOP conservative commentators on the news, as soon as they turn left, they start gaining weight? Because the only reason I say that, Meghan McCain is sitting on the other side. And so you got...
No comment.
It's some big girl.
No comment. All I can say is McCain, last name, family, Songbird.
Right.
But
Navarro's supposed to be the conservative member of The View and thinks Marsha Blackburn, well, let's listen to her in her own words.
A show.
John, yesterday...
It'll be much shorter, by the way. They're not going to use all 24 hours.
Yesterday, Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee spent hours. First she tweeted it out, then she spent hours on TV
Republican.
attacking Vindman, Alexander Vindman. She questioned his patriotism. This is a guy who has a Purple Heart because of the injuries he received in the Iraq War.
As his driver
he still
took the
has
wrong
shrapnel
turn.
in his body.
Yeah.
His parents are Soviet Jews who fled communism. I can't even explain to you how angry I am about that, about calling into question his patriotism. You want to call into question his judgment, fine. But for somebody that's never served in the military, for somebody that's a Republican, we used to be pro-military, to have the gall in order to defend a president who pretended to have bone spurs in order not to serve, to have the gall to question this man's patriotism. To me, I question her patriotism and her sanity.
Sanity.
What is going on?
Not only her patriotism, her sanity.
It's a risky thing to do because we saw Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, who you point out served in the Iraq War. He's a decorated war veteran. He testified in his uniform, and at one point, you remember one of the Republicans took issue, "Why are you wearing your uniform here?" So it's a risky.
The hypocrisy is so obnoxious.
Is it very similar to what Hillary Clinton did to Tulsi Gabbard? And
Man, we're all fat. Every one of us is fat on this panel.
It's done real damage.
Can somebody pass some
to her life
Doritos?
because she's been accused of being a Russian asset by Hillary Clinton. I think it's a trend. We're seeing across lines.
I need some bonbons over here.
But let me ask you this. Marsha Blackburn, Senator Blackburn, also was reading a book and tweeted out that she was reading a book.
Oh, my goodness. The joy of cooking.
Is that something that she could be penalized for, as opposed to paying attention to the hearing?
If you believe the admonishments of the Sergeant at Arms, you could
throw her in jail.
But look, the rules say you can't have electronic devices. They have to check them in.
Can I get some of that salami?
It also says you can't have extraneous materials, reading materials, but all the senators.
Someone I love was caught playing poker on his phone.
Yeah.
One time my dad did, and it got caught. So it does happen.
It does happen.
And when they showed that,
and it definitely happened in 1999 too.
Can I get a large sandwich?
People doodling, reading reports.
That's it too. Pat Toomey's chocolate drawer.
It showed what a hypocrite he was.
Bathroom breaks.
Oh, yeah.
Convenient bathroom breaks.
Yeah, well, there are urinary tract infections.
Urinary tract infections, oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, your weekly jihad report. 25 jihad attacks, 79 killed, 51 injured, 0 suicide blasts. All this occurring in 13 countries. The religion of peace atrocity of the week. Somali al-Shabaab rebels kill 3 Christian teachers in northeast Kenya at about 2:30 in the morning on Monday, sources said. One of the attackers said, "We cannot allow infidels to teach our children," and there and then fired at 3 teachers. As I managed to escape through a window, the surviving teacher told Morning Star News. Other recent misunderstandings of Islam: on the 22nd in Afghanistan, an Islamic radical throws a grenade into a medical shop, killing the owner. On the 22nd in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a child is among 6 innocents slain by ADF Islamists. On the 20th, Burkina Faso, dozens at a market are butchered and burned by Islamic militants. On the 19th in Nigeria, a Christian pastor is abducted and beheaded in captivity by Islamic radicals. On the 19th in Chad, 2 women are among 9 innocents sent to Allah by a Shaheed suicide bomber. On the 18th in Afghanistan, an infant is among 6 family members exterminated by fundamentalists for alleged involvement in immoral activities. The religion of peace, ladies and gentlemen, one body at a time.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
Jack, 20 minutes ago, I would have never thought that we were going to get through all the material that we have, but we have reached the point where we are. And that makes me very happy as a radio talk show host. I want to jump one more time into the politics of all this, and I want you to listen to Joe Biden, who I think Rudy Giuliani accurately stated, this guy can't even walk across the street. I can't believe they're putting all their eggs in this guy's barrel. I really
corn
can't.
Pop. I take a corn pop whenever I want to.
It's nuts. Listen to Joe Biden and what he says about the Dreamers, about the DACA kids.
These kids have come. They've done well. Most of these kids, there's a lot of them, and they're not just Hispanic, they're Asian Pacific Islanders as well. And they, in fact, have done very, very well. In many cases, they're more Americans than most Americans are because they have done well in school. They believe the basic principles that we all share. I think they should be, in fact, put on a path to citizenship.
So they're more American than most Americans. This is who they want to put up as their candidate for president.
That was his programming to spit that out?
Yeah. I mean, it's really unbelievable when you think about it.
The Dreamers.
And it's who they are.
Remember that? The Dreamers?
Yeah.
That was before DACA, right?
I don't know.
This was a different
group
of people.
I thought
during
they
the
were the same.
Obama administration.
I remember that. And they were coming across in trains and planes and automobiles. I mean, they were everywhere. But I mean, just the fact that your candidate for president would call these third world peasant mother more American than your kids.
This is what Trump and the MAGA movement are trying to dismantle, not destroy, dismantle is the hoax that what has been the last 40 plus years in the United States as far as our federal government. Ever since, in my opinion, ever since President Reagan got shot.
Yeah.
And George H.W. Bush
you're
basically...
Right. You're sharp, man. You're right. That was a turning point.
That was it.
That was a turning point. And it worked for a time.
I mean, look what the media did. They basically turned Reagan in. How many stories came out that, oh, look, isn't it nice? President Ronald Reagan and his wife, Nancy, are, they planned their days on the horoscope. Remember that?
I do. And
if
you remember Alexander Haig when that happened.
Yeah. Hey, I'm the third in line,
He's chief of staff.
Yeah, I remember a political cartoon at the day. I don't know who did it, but there was a janitor sitting in front of it. Goes, and underneath it said, and God forbid that this guy passes.
Right.
You're next, because Alexander Haig was like, I'm here, the vice president and the president.
I'm in charge here. Yeah. And the sad part about that was I was always, and really still am, an Alexander Haig fan. I mean, great military guy. I mean, anyway.
But he was a general at the time, a top level general.
At the time he was chief of staff.
Yeah. So, I mean,
so anyway, let's shift gears a little bit. I want to go to climate change because, climate change is pretty important when you think about it, man. I mean, it's like...
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you continue to look away? People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Well, Albert Gore. I know. Albert Gore was at, I don't know if he was at Davos. I think he was at Davos, and he's talking about climate change. So let's just listen to Al Gore real quick.
The sense of urgency next year is even greater than it is this year. This crisis, the climate crisis, is way worse than people generally realize.
Way
worse.
Way.
It is getting worse still way faster
than
people realize.
Faster.
The burden to act that is on the shoulders of the generation of people alive today
on your shoulders
is a challenge to our moral imagination. But this is Thermopylae. This is Agincourt. This is the Battle of the Bulge. This is Dunkirk. This is 9/11. We have to rise to this occasion.
Rise to the occasion.
We have the tools. We have the solutions. We know what to do. We lack the requisite political will.
Give up your
political
rights.
will For anyone who doubts that we as human beings have the capacity to rise above our limitations and transcend the difficulties we now face. Remember that political will is itself a renewable resource.
I'm moonwalking up in here.
What a moron, man. This guy. But, it's not unprecedented. That was today. Let's check him out in 2009. He had black hair then.
TV. The world is thinking.
It's hard to capture the astonishment that the experts in the science of ice felt when they saw this minimum in 2005, which meant that the amount of ice that had melted, it's been roughly the size of the continental United States, minus an area roughly the size of Arizona. Nothing against Arizona.
Tennessee.
But the amount that melted in 2005 was equivalent to an area covering everything east.
And he came from a KKK family, by the way.
He doesn't sound like anybody from Tennessee that I've met.
The real shock to the scientists came was in 2007 when this happened. And their phrase was, it fell off a cliff. And then the extra amount that melted was this much. Now,
what an asshole, man.
This covers the area.
All right, man. I canceled the clip, Jack. I don't want to hear him. Anybody who believes this guy, if you look back on his history and his big push for climate change was at the beginning of the Obama administration. I remember because John Boehner was the Speaker of the House. And after they passed Obamacare and a bunch of other things, the next thing in line was the carbon tax. Remember that?
Yes.
And John Boehner stood up in front of the House.
Devices hooked to livestock's rear ends to tax farmers for raising cattle.
And the Chicago Climate Change, or the Chicago Climate Exchange, was going to be the body that calculated everybody's carbon usage, and everybody was going to get taxed.
That's part of the Paris. Remember the Paris Agreement?
Yeah, exactly.
When he got into office, he said, "We're out of this."
And Al Gore was fully invested in the Chicago Climate Exchange.
Shame.
And Boehner came out at 3:00 in the morning, and I have the tape somewhere. He pontificated for like an hour and got it canceled. It was the first stoppage of the communist takeover of Obama, of the Kenyan that tried to take over the United States. And he kept going, even though 6 months later, the Chicago Climate Exchange went bankrupt. But he's still out there doing the same thing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he came out of his cave when.
Yeah. He's got white hair now.
He's like, oh my gosh, they got this young girl they're manipulating, and she's like, got feelings,
and her father
it's like reaching.
Her father's the one that's putting the text out. She's not saying shit. So anyway, there's that. I wanted to bring that to you. It's not dead yet, but we're almost out of time tonight. I want to talk a couple other issues. One is in Alabama, Jack. I'm curious on your opinion on this. Trump tweeted out a tweet with a picture with a graphic that showed the Alabama Senate race. And I'll tell you, on the Republican side, Jeff Sessions isn't guaranteed to win this. And this was presented by the Gateway Pundit under the auspices that Sessions was always a traitor. And I tell you, I have to go along with that.
I do too.
The guy is he was horrible. He could have done so much to avert this whole
He had
thing.
the opportunity to drain the swamp and help President Trump. He he just basically tossed it to the curb and basically said, "I got to sit idly by." As 2 years passed,
without even thinking about how the enemy's attorneys general stuck up for their presidents.
Right.
He didn't have any of that. He that little bitch. I'll tell you anyway.
To see him resurface and say that he wants that Senate seat. As soon as I saw that he was out there, I'm like, please, Alabama. He served his time. Right. He may have been a great senator.
At one time, that's true.
He got the opportunity to help the president, drain the swamp. He basically, folded and put the president in a bad situation and let Comey and let the Mueller thing come out. And you spent 2 years with the Mueller investigation. That's due to Sessions.
A pure coward. And let me just say, Tommy Tuberville this week took on Jeff Sessions during an appearance on WVNN radio and weighed in on the response to the impeachment saga while out in the campaign trail and as to whether or not it was an important issue to voters. He said on Tuesday, you've got one thing going on here. One of the guys that started all of this is running in the race, Jeff Sessions, Tuberville said. He's the guy that stepped to the plate, or didn't step to the plate, recused himself, and turned all this impeachment stuff over to the bureaucrat lawyers in Washington, D.C. And Jack,
Rosenstein.
I said that.
Remember?
I said that so many times. And, I had a lot of pushback. But
I know, and I think at the when it first started, I'm like, he's doing it on ethical ground. He's saying, I was in the Senate, I was involved with the campaign, I'm being the better person and saying I have to recuse myself from this.
Well,
that's
what this guy.
My side is like they're all playing dirty pool. You got to play dirty pool with them, right?
Right. And Tuberville said, this is one of the reasons I got in. When Paul Ryan and Jeff Sessions, and they're interchangeable to me, turned on our president, I said, enough is enough. I'm going to try to do something. I don't know whether I get elected, but by golly, I'm going to run as an outsider and not as a career politician. I'm running to try and make a difference and try to help this president and try to help this state and country. I think people are looking at it, and if the guy would have done the right thing, and I said this so many times, if Jeff Sessions had done the right thing, this might not be as big of a problem as it is today. Man, we've opened up a can of worms. I feel bad for the president. I really do. And when he was asked what Sessions should have done, Tuberville argued he should have considered the precedent left behind by the Obama administration attorneys general. If you just go back and look at the previous president, Eric Holder, he stood up strong for President Obama. He said he stood up strong. He fought it off. There's many times a guy probably should have recused himself on some of that stuff that they were involved in. And then you got Loretta Lynch. She did the same thing. She stood strong.
Congress held Holder in contempt of Congress. And nothing happened to him.
Means nothing.
Right.
Means absolutely nothing.
Means absolutely nothing.
So far as I'm concerned.
He's got a good name.
Tuberville.
Tommy Tuberville.
Tuberville,
football in the Southeast.
Okay.
In the SEC, the Southeast Conference. That's big time. And Tommy Tuberville, if I remember correctly, he was a head coach of one of those Southeastern Conference teams for a few years.
Probably was. But let me tell you where we're at right now. Today, Sessions is at 35%. Tuberville is at 31%. And Cold War Radio is lock, stock, and barrel behind Tommy Tuberville.
Yes.
Let me tell you that down in Alabama. We need to retire Sessions.
Sessions had his opportunity to help.
That's right. He blew it. He blew it like a cowardly bastard. He blew it. And that's a shame, but that's the way it is.
He can come on TV all he wants right now and say he's 100% behind Trump. But, hey, when he was in a position to be 100% behind Trump,
when we needed
he bailed.
You're damn right. And I said it at every time, and I got a lot of I got as much heat for doing that as I did against Trey Gowdy and as I did against who was the other dude I went against that everybody flipped out about? Mueller. I remember early on in the show, Jack, you weren't here yet. You might have been listening, but man, I got calls from people telling me Mueller was the savior.
Nah.
And I was like, no.
Remember, there was Comey. Somebody, I remember callers that said Comey was going to be involved in taking down the swamp.
Yeah,
and we see how that's gone. I know. I originally backed Sessions as far as being on principle, saying that,
I remember you were on the other side. I know, and that's fine.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
but
I was wrong with. Right. I mean, because to me, if he would have stayed in there and done it, on hindsight, it probably would have prevented a lot of what happened.
My big thing was right from the beginning when the dude realized, all right, I'm not going to stand up and be a man and fight this.
He should have never taken the job, right?
He should have told the president, look, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I have to either, and even if it was after that, he should have said it right up front.
He should have already known what was coming. Right?
Yeah, that's my opinion.
You know, I appreciate the offer, but if you put me in as Attorney General, I'm here in the Senate, and here we got all this, and I'm going to have to recuse myself because he's supposedly a lifetime law, Department of Justice guy.
And I mean, he even had the fucking middle name of Beauregard. I thought he was going to be, you know what I mean? I thought he was going to be like the guy with the gray hat with the feather coming off. He was going to be the most honorable dude that you ever saw in your life.
And I think
what an embarrassment.
And in hindsight, looking back, we got to remember when the FBI targeted General Flynn, because this was all during the transition, right?
No doubt.
What day did that happen? And did that event make shit?
That's all right. The show's over anyway, man.
Yeah, Sessions. Did that make Sessions think twice? Are they coming after me?
Final comments and what's on your mind, and we're getting out of here, man.
Hey, tomorrow we get 3 hours preview of what finally the president's attorneys get to say as far as this bogus impeachment deal. 10 a.m. East Standard Time to 1 p.m. preview, 3 hours, and then boom, Monday, Tuesday. Looking forward to it. Thanks for everybody that called in. I love you folks. Thanks, Hutch, for letting me be a part.
Well, thank you, Jack, for being an integral part of Cold War Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to see some activity on the donations for CPAC. Let me know you really want us to go. SteelCityResistance.com, off in the right-hand column. I love doing this show, I really do, but my daughter and my grandson's out in the other portion of the facility, so I can't wait to go see them. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. This is Cold War Radio. Please go to rsbn.bandcamp.com and support Jacob Seals. We will be back on Monday. God bless of all you people that listen to us, man. I mean, without you, this wouldn't be possible. We'll see you on Monday.